Ever wonder what it's like to stay on a houseboat for a few days on a beautiful lake in Maine? So let me introduce you to my two houseboats. Without further ado, I'd like to show you around. This is Nomad. I bought Nomad in the winter of 2018. It's a 1968 Thunderbird drifter cruise. So it's a really, really cool houseboat. They were made for a short time and they're offshore rated houseboats, which is pretty uncommon. The previous owners were great users of this houseboat. They loved and used the houseboat all over the Chesapeake Bay and the area around, actually where my family is from, in the Annapolis area in Maryland. So really cool connection there. So I bought the houseboat. It's just north of Baltimore. And the previous owners left a whole bunch of really cool information, including old magazines that this houseboat was featured in. And it was historically registered. So 1968 is it's pretty old boat. So it had great bones. We essentially did a home renovation on this boat. So we gutted the interior of the boat, but everything else on the boat, systems-wise, the engine, all of the hull and superstructure of the boat is in really, really good shape, continues to this day to be in really good shape. So we got a great deal. I continue to stay in touch with the previous owners, which is really cool. They're actually going to come stay again on the boat this summer. When we did the renovation, this door didn't exist. We made two pretty big changes to the structure of the houseboat, and the front door was one, and then this loft was another. So we sacrificed some of the upper deck, the aft deck, that we'll see here probably in a couple of minutes, but to make this loft. So we added a little bit depth to it just to be able to put a double bed up here. But I was okay with that. My boat builder was hesitant. He didn't like putting weight up high, which I understand. It's no longer offshore rated because I knew I was going to be having, or I knew it was going to be on lakes in Maine. That's where I knew I was going to be hosting my business. So I was okay with that, and I convinced him to be okay with it too. So we cut a hole up in the roof so we could add a little bit more height so you didn't feel claustrophobic when you were sleeping up in the loft. So we have this removable pod, which also makes it street legal. We can remove the pod and actually take it down the road. So it's the height restriction. We don't break the height restriction on the highway. Those are the two big modifications we made just to the structure of the boat. But other than that, really, we just kind of switched things around and opened the whole space up. It was very dark. It had, kind of the typical 60s wood paneling in here. So we just opened and brightened everything up. So helm station is still the original. All of the gauges and helm are still the same. The previous owners added a generator, which is amazing. I would be doing solar on the boat if I didn't have that generator, but it's really hard to not use a generator when you've got it. It's a very nice way to recharge the batteries. So when and if that ever goes, I have plans to put solar up on the hatches up here on the roof of the pod. They have really great options for solar panels that are flexible that can go on the curve of the pod up there. But moving down here, space is always very limited. Kind of thinking of this as a floating tiny house is how we structured it. I didn't know anything about living on a houseboat until I had this boat. And in the construction part of it, Rick, who has lived on houseboats and sailboats a good chunk of his life, was very helpful in this. So he added storage wherever possible. Storage under stairs, very common in tiny houses as well. So lots of storage here. Closets, there's storage underneath that we can access underneath the settee. There's panels underneath the cushion that we can access it as well. But I have the ability to kind of get to it underneath, and I have plastic tubs and that type of thing to keep refills for the coffee and soap and all that kind of stuff under here. We have our life jackets handy for guests when they stay, that type of thing. So this space up here, this used to be a big L-shaped lounge area. So it was a it converted into a sleeping space, which, you know, was handy when it was a houseboat for the previous owner. But we decided to sacrifice that space and just make it, this is a convertible. We use this as a single sleeping space in addition to the loft. Nothing like sleeping on a boat. It's like the best sleep of your life. So this cushion was reclaimed or kept from the previous boat because it fit perfectly in the spot. And my sweet mother sewed this cushion cover from this fabric that I got from my grandmother. So my grandmother and aunt ran an upholstery business up until very recently for many decades. So this was like a little drafting table that was up here in the pilot house. So this is my retirement plan. Right, just so everyone knows. I plan to live on this boat full time at some point in my life. I lived on it for about a month, a little bit more than a month when I first owned it, just to kind of work out the kinks, make sure I understood the houseboat and all of its systems before I, you know, let guests stay on it, just so I felt comfortable being able to answer questions or handle any issues that arose. But mostly I just wanted to talk about this panel. This is a refueling panel that I salvaged, aka stole from the bin outside of my squadron. It came off of my helicopter one of the helicopters that I flew when I was active duty. I was a helicopter pilot. So these push to check, they were panels here. These are instructions for refueling. So, you know, there's a nozzle here that was behind this, where the nozzle would go to refuel my helicopter. So I was able to take this. I've had it for years. Don't worry, I didn't steal it. It's just, you know, it's something that they throw away after a certain number of hours. So grabbed that at some point. Didn't know what I was going to do with it, but that's what I'm doing with it. So gave this to Rick and said, hey, I want to do something with that. So at some point it was going to be a table. We were going to try to figure it out, but he decided to use this as like a little control panel, which worked out really well. So, you know, this is a bilge pump. This is the switch for the hot water tank to get that going when people want to take a shower. And then this is just a control panel for the inverter that's in the back of the boat. So what's really cool, and I didn't know that he was going to do this, but Rick kind of took the shape and curve of this panel and used it throughout the boat. So you'll see, you know, didn't have to do this, but took the curve for the cubbies, the curve for the doors. You'll notice pretty much everything on the boat, the cabinets that he did custom, this beautiful veneer that he put on with the plywood. Just did a really fantastic job. So not only is he a boat builder, but he's a beautiful woodworker and artist. So you can see he did great work, great construction, added a real nice artistic touch to some of the work that he did. So as I mentioned, this boat was really well taken care of, like meticulous maintenance logs from the previous owner. They loved and really maintained this boat very, very well. So I am the beneficiary of that. So, and nothing better for a boat than to be used. So the previous owners did, and I certainly do. So guests are on this boat nearly every day over the summer. So, and when they're not, I'm on it. The refrigerator is a propane, it's electric or propane, but so it can be run either way. Very rarely, but sometimes we have guests that decide to stay at the dock for whatever reason. And so I plug it in because we're on shore power. So that's easy. But most of the time it's running on propane. The stove over here is a propane appliance. And our hot water heater is propane along with the space heater. I'll show you that here in a second. Electrical on the boat is just like in your home. We have an inverter. So we're running on batteries. And like I said, we have a generator to juice up the batteries. I have a lithium-ion battery that I got a couple years ago. I was using deep cycle battery, marine batteries before that, and they were doing okay, but I decided to kind of upgrade with a lithium-ion battery. So the previous owner, he passed away, unfortunately, which is why the boat came up for sale, and his son was the one that I was interacting with mostly. And they said that anything that they wanted, they had already taken off the boat. So there was like just this beautiful treasure trove of like artifacts to me. So it included the charts that they used to navigate on the Chesapeake. I decided to line the bottom of the drawers here with their charts. So that's, you know, approaches into Chesapeake Bay. Again, it's just like the coolest thing ever. So some of the maps, it's really cool. Like he has like, he's shooting a bearing off of one of these buoys, and like, you know, I just thought it was really cool. Like, and notes to himself, like how to get into the Gunpowder River. The boat was named the Ginny B3, and that was the owner's, well, it was a couple that owned it, but it was the wife, the woman, so it was named after her. So I still refer to the boat as the Ginny B3 every once in a while, just again out of respect for her and the previous owners. So, and like I said, I keep as much as I can from the previous owners out of respect for how much they loved and used the boat. So across from the kitchen, everyone's favorite discussion topic, the turlet. Everyone loves it, including me. So it's a beautiful bathroom. Yeah. So this is the aft lounge area. This is also the space that has the Dickinson heater. This is way more than the houseboat needs for heat, but I didn't know that at the time, and I kind of was just worried that on a houseboat in Maine, early in the season and later in the season, and sometimes random days in July, you need heater or heat on the boat. Lovers can sit here and look at the fire. It has a really cool flame, but it also puts off an insane amount of heat, like amazing. So I would highly recommend Dickinson's to anyone who needs a propane heater, whether it's for a tiny house or a houseboat. This space converts into another single sleeping area. So Nomad technically sleeps four very comfortably. And we often have either groups of friends or families that stay on this boat. And this area, it's kind of like a breakfast bar. It can be a place to write or color. So I often see people doing puzzles here. We have a couple down there. They bring their own, you know, like, what are we supposed to do on the boat for a couple of days? Like, there's no Wi-Fi, and that's on purpose. There's no TV, obviously, no TV. Like, the point is to just be out and away on the water, listen to the water, listen to the loons, and just kind of the easy little movement of the boat. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but for me, it kind of feels like you're doing something and also nothing at all. So this is the aft area of the living space. The inverter's back here, just in this box. It does get quite hot. So the gentleman that I had build some of these boxes just to make it look nice and tidy, we decided we needed quite a bit of ventilation. So that's why those holes exist. With my lithium ion battery, it came with this nifty little screen here. It's not lit up right now because I don't have the system on, but it's backlit and usually with kind of a green LED screen. And it has the charge of the battery, which is fantastic, especially for guests. So they can see when the battery gets down to, you know, a 60% charge or a 50% charge. And that's when I tell them to run the generator. So super easy. There's no guesswork or anything like that. It used to be I would just kind of tell them when to, like, run the generator around 10 o'clock every day, you know, that type of thing. This is much easier. And they, you know, don't necessarily have to run the generator every day if they don't need to. So that's kind of nice. I have a circuit breaker panel in here. That again was, you know, from the original boat. We just left it where it was. Actually, like, took it down and put it back up once we put the new wallboard up. But again, just a nice little box. Still have access to it, can check it if I need to. Now follow me outside and I'll show you where the upper deck is. So this is the engine compartment for a Nomad. He has a 310 horsepower inboard outboard motor, way more than I need for anything that I'm doing on this lake in Maine. But I will tell you, it is nice to have a little bit of kick when I need it. It does get pretty windy here, so if I'm coming into the dock or trying to get on a mooring or off a mooring, you know, having as much juice as I need is really, really nice. But certainly way more than I need. I do all the maintenance on this boat. It's really, I'm sure there's someone I could call in an extreme emergency, but like my dad said, try to do everything you can by yourself. So be as self-sufficient as possible. So I take care of a lot of the maintenance by myself, knock on wood. In general, there's not a lot of hardcore things that I need to do to the engine. We do a lot of work winterizing them really well. So we don't have to worry too much about, you know, the wear and tear on the engines. We just take really good care of them. And one of the nicest spots on the boat, in my opinion, is this upper deck here with a lovely fire pit. Just up this ladder, we have a couple of Adirondack chairs. When we've got more guests staying, I add a couple of camp chairs so everyone can be up here enjoying the fire pit. Again, this is a propane fire pit. It has its own propane tank just to make sure if you're having way too much fun up here, you don't deplete the propane that's required and necessary for all of the appliances that are on the boat. But you can just enjoy the best view of Pemaquid Lake. Once the sun goes down, it's like amazing stargazing. I grab a drink, grab some food, hang out up here with my favorite people. It's just truly magnificent. So Nomad has this really cool pod, like I was mentioning earlier, with these pop-up hatches. So the two in the back are the only two that I allow guests to open for just safety reasons. But they have these wooden keepers, so you can go to any height, really. This is the lowest height. We have little screen shears that go along the inside with Velcro if you want to keep the bugs out. They close conveniently. You can keep them open at night for stargazing. So that's Nomad. Now I'm going to show you Rome, his little sister. So welcome aboard Rome. I'm going to give you a tour from stern to bow. Rome was a custom-build boat from Rick, again, my boat builder. So he built her from scratch in his garage over one winter with the help of his lovely wife, Sue, and some finishing work by Steve, again, his partner, boat building partner. But this is the stern. It's gone through a couple of iterations. This is the newest. We have a kind of a fun little seating station here where you can actually like sit and eat a meal. That was one of the things that we didn't really have on Rome. So we've iterated over the years, but Rome was built over the winter of 2018 into 19. So she came into commission the summer of 2019. So this is her 7th season. This, she has a 9.9 horsepower engine that you can't quite see. Swim ladder off the back, a nice grill off the back. Really just everything you need and nothing you don't. So there's a lot of upcycled material in Rome. On Rome for her systems, like I said before, it's pretty simple. So we have basically her control panel up here. The battery switch we leave on because she's on a solar panel, so I always want it to be charging. So the 100-watt solar panel, she doesn't need much. I've got 2 deep cycle batteries here hooked up. The starter battery for the engine is on a separate circuit. It is literally just hardwired to the battery, so nothing needed there. And then there's a bilge pump that works to facilitate the shower use. And then we have a couple of navigation lights. I do have an inverter. It's used very rarely, and it does suck the battery juice pretty solidly. So I tell people if they're coming, and it really almost is never an issue, but I tell people if they're coming, like USBs is primarily, it's very low, you know, just don't bring your computers. No working allowed on Rome. This is an ice box, so it's really a built-in cooler. So it's all fiberglass and insulated around. So I just fill this with ice. We have an ice maker on the property here. I fill this with ice and ice packs when people are coming, or they bring their own coolers, and this works fine. I've spent a lot of time on this boat myself, like weeks at a time, and have no problem using this as like a refrigerator. It obviously doesn't keep things frozen, and I just keep replenishing it with ice. So this is a propane stove. Works fine, does a great job for stovetop cooking, simple cooking. And the grill. Grilling is really easy on the boat. Another Dickinson heater on this boat. Again, this space is very small. Doesn't need this type of heater, but this is the smallest marine rated heater that they make, so decided to go with this one. When the temperatures are cold overnight, obviously I don't allow guests to run this while they're sleeping. We have other solutions. Like I recommend people bringing sleeping bags. Yeah, so this desk area, again, is a little too tight for 2 people to sit, but for 1 person, we often do have like one person, single guests come and stay on the boat. When I stay on the boat, it's usually just me. But this is a great place to sit. If you do have to work, this is the place to do it. So for what it's worth. And then I left this out. I have guest books like you do on my boats, and I have the most, first of all, I have the most amazing guests ever. But on Rome in particular, I have like the most artistic guests ever, and they have left me like the most beautiful pieces of art. Like someone left this like watercolor, I think it was done with markers or watercolor markers. I just like have to show you some of these. They're just like gorgeous pieces of art. This is a wet bath, if anyone's familiar with those from like the old cruise ships or anything like that. It was designed by Rick to just have a collection basin down in the bottom. So everything in here is waterproof, except for the things that aren't. So, they're removable. We don't want a big soggy TP roll. To use the shower, there's a water pump. We have a hot water, an on-demand propane system. So there's hot water shower available. It's actually really nice. I love showering in here. It has a, a nice high pressure, low flow, high pressure shower head here. Everything flows down into the basin in the bottom, and then there's a bilge pump system that pumps everything into the gray water tank. And then speaking of gray water tanks, we have gray water holding tanks on both boats that collect obviously the shower water and sink water, and black water holding tanks that hold the toilet water. So we're collecting all of the water, all of the wastewater from on both of the boats. Nothing's going into the lake, and we dispose of that with our honey wagon. So this is a Jabsco marine toilet. It's, hand pump. You're either adding water or you're not with this little toggle, and pumping until whatever's there is no longer there. There's instructions, but it's very simple. I don't have to worry about locking or unlocking the valve because we're above the water line. If you're below the water line, like some boats are, you do have to make sure that you lock the valve. Just there's the possibility that if you're below the water line, the water will come in and overflow from the toilet into your boat. And then moving forward through the boat, the bed takes up a lot of the space. But that's fine because it's really comfortable. We tried to make this, as small as possible just to be able to have enough space to not only walk through, but have a little seating area too, but also like make it comfortable for 2 people. So this is not quite a double bed. It's a custom mattress. I didn't know you could buy custom mattresses. And then also, just like on Nomad, everything is storage. So hidden storage under the seat cushions here, which my mom and my aunt also made. These are awesome. And then there's storage underneath the bed as well. Plenty of storage, like more than I need on this boat, but I can access that by lifting the mattress. I did want to mention too, these doors. So the hatches for Rome are really cool. They're 3 pieces of wood, same for the front as in the back. They're slightly different sizes, so you can't mix them up, but they fit together like little puzzle pieces. And it's very similar to on a sailboat. But I think they're awesome and fit together. And I like to go a little asymmetrical sometimes. I just have a little bit of airflow coming through. It's just a companionway that slides. So the front deck on Rome, plenty of space to sit down. I've seen people clear these chairs and do yoga out here, which is wonderful. Again, when you're out on the water, either on a mooring or at anchor, the bow is always going to be into the wind. So this is kind of the front-facing spot on the boat. The wind is going to be in your face, keeping the bugs away. Just a lovely, lovely little spot to sit. And then one of the nicest spots on Rome is this upper deck. So it's a little slick in the morning, like when it's wet, but otherwise, just another great spot. I have yoga mats on the boat. And here's the solar panel that provides the juice for our batteries here. Like I said, it's a 100-watt solar panel. Has worked great. And if we needed more power, like if this was going to be a full-time liveaboard, we would have plenty of space up here. We could sacrifice some of, the fun area up here by just adding more solar panels. And this pagoda roof that provides shade for the aft deck area, we were going back and forth. It was mostly Rick who was kind of trying to figure out what would be the best idea for a covering for that back area. And he actually decided to go with this semi-clear corrugated plastic. It's a wonderful space. It's an additional space, even when the weather's not great, to be able to sit and hang out, drink coffee, have a conversation. Like, you don't have to be like cooped up inside. Hey, I really appreciate you spending some time with me and my boats here in Bremen, Maine. If you would like to spend some actual time on these houseboats, you can find out more information or book your own trip at thefloatingnomad.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram at _floating_nomad. Thanks so much. Happy floating.